how are you all? I'm back again. I'm Monalisa Joshi, your host, and I'm back with another episode. This is episode 7 of season 3 happening, and I have another interesting guest with me today. He's one of the best selling psychological horror writers. He's also a chemical engineer, also a choreographer, and his books are as unique as his name. Please welcome Ajinkya Bhasme to episode 7 of season 3 of Monalisa's talk show. Hi, Ajinkya, how are you?
Hi, Monalisa. What a lovely name, first of all. Of course, as beautiful as the painting. Glad to be here, happy to be here, happy to be all crazy and truthful with you as much as possible. And since my stories are horror stories, happy to also scare you if possible.
That would be lovely and interesting as well. So let's begin with the Q&A session. And since this is going to be a free-flowing interview session, so you don't have to feel any jitters. And I think I am not going to scare you today, although you are a horror writer.
All game. Perfect. Sounds fun.
Okay. So let's begin with the first question that really came to me going through your profile, that you have been raised in an environment rich in Indian literature and culture, and you have grown up listening to Bhagavad Gita and various Hindu scriptures, and also you have good exposure to Sanskrit literature as well. So I really want to know that why did not you write with mythology? I mean, you didn't start your books writing with mythology instead of horror you chose. So I want to know why.
I am a big sucker when it comes to Hindu literature, mythology. I read that quite a lot, and I was raised on these principles of Bhagavad Gita, Vedas, and Puranas. All these I read when I was a kid, and I think that was when the craving for good stories kind of started. Um, Honestly speaking, I did not want to write it because I'm a purist. You might have read that I'm also a Kathak dancer. So I come from that school of thought where I don't want to kind of something which is already great, I don't want to mess it up. But having said that, I would really love to add something to it, create another world out of it, or reintroduce the world in a contemporary era, which is why I have a radio show which is out on Kuku FM now, and it's mythofiction. It's completely based on Indian mythology, all the loks, all the varnas, all the characters that you see, like Indralok, Devlok, Tapolok, all these characters and all these basic foundation of our scriptures. It's all based on that, and it's again there are horror elements to it because I love horror. And the show is out. It has about 50,000, 60,000 views already, listens already. It's on Kuku FM. It's called Rag Brahmand, which is also called as Brahmanath, and it is basically the sound of the universe. So the idea of that show is that somehow in the sound of the universe something happens because of which few notes, few swars in the universe, they kind of escape, and somehow they transform themselves, and they are now hidden in different corners of this universe. And it's up to a person from Pushkar, Rajasthan, who is musically inclined, along with somebody from Brahmalok who is magical being and all. They are set on this journey to find all these notes. So I personally started writing horror because I'm more inclined toward horror stories. And if we actually read all our scriptures, Hindu scriptures as well, and mythological literature as well, Sanskrit literature, there are quite a lot of horror stories in it. I don't remember the shlok, but there is a Sanskrit shlok which says that if you are a stupid person, then you should be tied to a big rock and thrown into the sea. So these are the kind of horror stories that I have read as a child, and of course those influenced me to write more about not just really possession horror, but more to do with like Indian oriented, deeply rooted in the culture of Indianness, the rituals that we do, how we pray to God, how we How we do smaller things in our daily routine, which we don't question. For example, incense, agarbatti. We don't really
Yeah.
question why do we do these things, and these are some ritualistic behavior that all of us follow to some extent in our
Hmm.
households. May it be like Hindu or Muslim or Christian, we do follow like some kind of smaller nuances, smaller rituals, and that to me is exciting. And creating a story out of it becomes more and more exciting for me. So I started off with horror, and I'm now slowly kind of mixing my genres and seeing
Transition.
where it takes me.
Okay. So I want to know one thing, that you are saying that you're a purist at heart. So I want to know that while writing horror, it's quite a dark genre. So does it affect your mindset or your mental health somewhere? Because you are balancing both, I guess.
It does. It absolutely does. I was doing this show, this interview with, I think it was Radio Mirchi, and they were asking me this question, this exact question, and this was particularly about one of my books, 7 Hours at Bhat Road, the third book. And they were asking me a question because during my interviews something came up, and I'm often known as a method writer. It's like a method actor, so I get into my character's shoes, I become the character, and then I write it. So notoriously, this is what happened. In order to write the climactic scenes of some of my books, what I do is I switch off my phones, I disconnect from the entire world, and I usually I usually close all the curtains. I make sure that the room is very dark. I have this 2 liters of water bottle with me, 2 bottles filled, snacks, and I will not eat, I will not sleep, I will not drink. I'll just keep snacking, writing. I'm completely into the zone. So I realized that I have not slept for about 36 hours, and I was constantly writing. And since the curtains, I have thick curtains. So since everything was so dark and I was writing in a dark room, I had lost the perception of time, and I had lost understanding of what sunlight kind of felt like. And that scene was very intense. The climax was very, very intense, super emotional, high emotional turmoil, extreme darkness. So it was that since I was into it, it was taking a toll on me. After the 36 hours, I realized that my voice was kind of gone because my throat was entirely dry. And it was sunny outside, and I realized that I was getting scared of sunlight, and I did
Okay.
not understand the perception of time. I did not understand perception of vision. Everything was dizzy. So I called up my friend and I said that, look, this is happening to me. I know exactly what is happening to me because I have read psychology all my life. So I was like, I know exactly what is happening to me. So I want 8 hours. If in 8 hours of time I don't come back to reality and I am not answering any calls or I don't call you myself, just knock the door. Just if I don't open the door, just like knock it out, break it open, ship me to a hospital. That's what you need to do. But I was fine in like 6 hours. I slowly introduced myself to civilization. So I was fine. It does happen. It does happen quite frequently. But I think this is something that I need to do if I need to tell genuine stories. If I don't want to, like I said, I call myself a purist, and if I don't want that to be compromised in any way, I would most likely do such crazy things.
Okay. So while talking to some of the horror writers in during my previous sessions, I got to know that they sometimes prefer, locations that were like haunted and to get the vibe. So do you kind of do such things as well? Do you choose such kind of place where there have such something that has happened, and like you feel the vibe and then you soak in and you write?
I actually don't. I
Okay.
think I can write anywhere. That's a great part about my process because I get into that zone. So even if I'm in a crowded cafe, I can
Hmm.
write. Even if I'm surrounded by family, children yelling and all, I can still write. My only quirk is that since I write predominantly on mental health and mental health disorders and mental health illnesses, I draw a lot of inspiration from people around me. I do a lot of research on mental health deviances, psychological issues, problematic disorders. I do a lot of research on that. Since I don't write predominantly on hauntings and all, or I haven't written it
Hmm.
so far, so I haven't felt the
Hmm.
necessity yet to, kind of explore a location like that. To me, horror is very internal, internalized fear, something that comes from deep within. Some people might be scared of some witch or something. Others might not be
Hmm.
scared of that witch. Others might be scared of a serial killer. Some others might not be scared of serial killers or a witch. They might just be scared of bad marks in an exam. So for me, fear, horror, these are all elements which are very personal. They're different to different people, and everything just happens right here. It's in your head. It's intrinsic. Even if there is something right in front of you which is super scary, maybe it's not scary for you, right? I love to give this. I love to give this example. um, some people are dog lovers, some people are not. People who don't understand dogs as much, they might get scared of a growling dog and they might jump and run away, and the dog might chase them. However, some others who are not scared of dogs and all, and they find a dog growling, they understand why it is growling, they might take two steps back, they might do lulu lulu, they might do that, and the dog might start wagging its tail, something like that. They might not even flinch an eye. And that is interesting for me, because something that can scare one person may not be scary at all, maybe actually endearing to somebody else. So I think, particularly for me, since horror is in your head, I love to explore what is inside rather than outside. So for me, that exploration happens when, I kind of shut myself out. Even if there are physically people present, I just switch off, shut myself out, and then, whatever happens inside my head happens inside my head. You read that in the books.
So basically, what I'm getting is that you try to kind of give the mental issues or the mental health issues a kind of horror face, or it's more like a metaphor to the mental health issues, right?
Absolutely.
So
And I
that's
think that we have enough horror writers who are doing a fantastic job with this genre of, hauntings and exploring cultural horror. There are fantastic Indian writers who are already doing that. And I think that I really want to tell stories where I excel, and my academic knowledge and my research in the psychological material has introduced me to several stories that are so genuine and that are so, grounded in reality, and so horrific and so scary, that I personally think that there is a lack of that in the country, which is where I think that I should, start telling those stories better.
okay. So this brings me to the next question, which I noticed in your profile that you have mentioned that your love for writing horror and thriller stories actually stemmed from your mother. So I want to know how.
Yeah, that is true. So, like you said, I have read a lot of scriptures in the beginning, but the stories actually started when my mom used to narrate me bedtime stories. I was this hyperactive kid who would be like super energy and the only child, no siblings. So I used to be destructive throughout the house. I used to end up doing everything. I would draw on walls. I would scratch everything. So I was my energy was, let's say, it was too much to be contained in four walls of the house. So night times were horrible for my parents because I never slept. So they wanted me to sleep. So they found out that I loved stories, and whenever they used to tell me stories, I used to sleep. So they started with these typical Aesop fables and Pinky, Chacha Chaudhary, those kind of stories for younger children. There was this big purple book, Robin Hood. Such kind of stories they started telling, and I loved listening to those stories. But since my energy was a lot, I used to hear like three, four stories in one night. Only then I would sleep. So not just one story per night. And since they were like tiny stories, I wanted to hear three, four stories. So we pretty much very soon exhausted by the age of, I think, 6 or 7 years old. I was exhausted with all these stories. Then my mother thought that let me start telling him bigger scriptures, epic tales. So she started narrating me Gulbakavli, Hatim Tai. She started narrating me these kind of epics, and then those epics kind of finished. Then more maturity came. Then Mahabharata came, Ramayana came. Then we went to Yayati, and all those like Marathi scriptures we started, and then soon everything was, over. And previously she used to scare me कि सो जा वरना चुड़ैल आ जाएगी और सो जा वरना ये गब्बर आ जाएगा and all. And pretty quickly I kind of understood that this was not happening. These are all fictional characters. Nobody is coming to pick me up. So I used to be like, ah, aane do. Let them come. Nothing is going to happen to me. And I got so snooty about it, and my mother was suffering basically because this she had this annoying snooty child who was too energetic. So she thought, what else could scare him to sleep? Then she started narrating me stories from her courtroom. So coincidentally, she was practicing criminal law that time, and there was this huge case of 1996, which also happens to be my first book's case, where she was actually in the courtroom witnessing those cases as well, where two women were abducting children and killing children from the age of like 6 months old to about 12 years old. And that was super scary. So she started narrating me stories from her courtroom like that. And since these were true stories, she used to scare me that soja varna ye aa jayegi. And I used to be like, no, 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 this is so true. This though I have seen in news also, this is not fictional. So I used to sleep. I used to just like shush and sleep. So from there, we kind of realized, mom and the son kind of realized that we love horror. We When my mother was pregnant with me, she also watched like Evil Dead, and she watched all those horror movies. So uh, I loved horror. My dad loves horror. It was just like something we did as a family. Even till date, we just whenever we meet, because I am working in another city, so it's very rarely that we come together, all three of us. So whenever we are all three of us together, we all switch off the light, play a nice horror movie, get scared, and then go off to sleep. It's a ritual that we follow. So that's where my love for
So,
horror comes from.
so your mother must be really proud now that all the stories that she has told you, अब उनका कुछ ना कुछ, their output and outcome has come really good.
Absolutely, I mean
So,
I owe that to her.
okay. Now, I want to know that you, by education, you chose chemical engineering. Then you have also done diploma in psychotherapy and also forensic psychology. So, how did this transition happen into becoming a full time writer? I guess you are a full time writer now. So, why did you leave behind all
I
this lucrative career?
Well, I am not really a full-time writer. I would always say I am a writer. I don't think I would like to make this as a full-time profession, just simply because of the fact that I just write not to earn money or anything. I just write because I love writing. I write because I want to tell
Hmm.
good stories. So that's what kind of my inclination is. What I think has happened organically for me is when I started doing chemical engineering. I was working in a company called Dr. Reddy's. I was making medicines there, and it was quite a fulfilling job. I was a scientist there. It was very fulfilling, and my company was so. They were so supportive of everything I was doing. They were so supportive of dancing, of my writing. So my bosses and their bosses, they were telling me that, hey Ajinkya, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, you are anyway doing great in corporate, so maybe you want to do this, maybe you want to try this. So I was like, okay, let me try that. So I started trying, and I realized that one of my strongest suits is research. And since I was researching heavily in Dr. Reddy's as well, I thought that why don't I apply that kind of a methodology, a research methodology, into my writing, and let's see how that creative field takes me, where it takes me. So I started learning a little bit about psychology. In my first book, When the Devil Whispers, started researching on that material, and I realized that I don't want to do a shoddy job, and I don't want to do it like a documentary. I want to really have a nice perspective to it, depth of character to it, understand better what people feel, what they behave like, why they behave like, the motive, the objective. I wanted to understand a lot of it. So I spent 4 years researching on that material, but also studying psychology and understanding really what deviant behavior is like, what criminal psychology is like. So forensic psychology kind of introduced me to criminal psychology, and I really understood that where the that kind of mentality comes from, where is it that horror of killing people comes from, and then it got me interested in why do people behave the way they behave. So I wanted to learn more. So I did genetic psychology as well, understanding eugenics. After that, I studied a little about therapy, and that got me more interested in psychotherapy and really understanding people behavior. And from there, I realized that the material that I was writing, the maturity was increasing because my knowledge was increasing, the depth of character was there. I have read a lot of books, and I understand that what is your prime motivation of the character can only be written by people who really understand their character properly. So an edge that I have now is that I don't really have to observe a lot of people to understand and write a character. Because of that study, I really understand the character stretch in advance. So that kind of took me to a place where I finished my first book, and I was like, "Ki, theek hai, I just want to write one book and I will be done after that." But that kind of blew out of proportion. It became bestseller. It gained a lot of attention from Bollywood, and after getting a lot of attention from Bollywood, I sold the screen rights to my book, which does not happen to new authors very
Yeah.
soon. And it happened to me in like a couple of months. And so I'm very thankful to Siddharth Jain for that, because he's been pitching my material. And he said that you have this knack for writing and telling stories. This is great. Do you have anything else? He asked me that. I said, "Do I have anything else?" I said, "I am like toying with a story in my head, but I don't know if it is interesting or not." So I told him the idea of two stories that I had, and he's like, "This one is great. Why don't you write a book on this one?" And I said, "Okay, I will write a book on this one." So that started another 2 year journey of researching on that material. And then came my second book, and then organically it happened that came third, and then last year came fourth, and now I'm writing fifth. So this just happened organically. What I'm doing full time is that last year I quit my job as a full time vice president of a company. Now I'm full time into mental health because I'm very passionate about it. So I started a startup some few months back. In April, I launched an app called Zelopia, Zealopia. Zelopia is a mental health startup, and it aims to make mental health more affordable and more accessible to people. It solves minor issues like breakup or family issues, or even like toxic job or toxic family. um, Kind of
Yeah.
makes you feel that you are not alone. You are surrounded by people who really care for you, and that to me is a victory in itself. That to me is very important. So I'm doing that full time for now.
Now, the funny thing that's coming in my mind is कि suppose your patients come and they ask you कि Ajinkya sir, you are otherwise scaring us with your books and यहाँ पे आप हमें mental treatment भी दे रहे हैं. So how you are going to respond to this?
I think that's a very funny question because it's like I first make your mental health bad and then I give services to make it good. Wow, but yeah, that's not true. Like scaring my readers is probably an entertaining way to make their mental health better, just by
Yeah.
educating them or just by spreading awareness that such diseases happen. Just look out for them, just look out for your family and friends. If you see such signs, then you know what to do now, you know what kind of things can happen. So it's no longer taboo, it's no longer like I don't want to show mental health as a no 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 you too pagal hai and all in my books. I want to really show it in
Yeah,
a
because
layered light, because
yeah,
that's the
because I
problem with our
truly
society right now. We consider such people as, oh,
People still
it's a
don't talk
lost
about it.
cause. Exactly.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about it, and we consider this as a lost cause. We think that, okay, it's all gone, and we only think that they would behave in a certain way. We don't, especially my second book, As Death Stared Back, I wanted people to get a flavor of being in the shoes of somebody who's mentally ill. So, if you in the right mind can't think straight, especially after being in the shoes of somebody who is mentally ill, then imagine somebody whose mental state is already compromised. How would they feel then? So, I really want people to empathize. I really want people to start having these complicated conversations about schizophrenia,
Yeah.
bipolar disorder, about mania, or about depression, anxiety, or even stress. We don't talk about stress often. We have made stress so casual in our life that, oh, I am in stress. But stress responses are also mentally, they mentally torture you. They torment you, and sometimes they become psychosomatic, and you start getting tummy aches, you start getting fever. So I don't think we are talking about that also enough. So that's my main objective, that you talk about it enough, I think people will start getting themselves educated about it.
So that's lovely, and all the very best for your new venture. And now let's talk about your latest book, In the Rotten Pits of Hunger. The title is really interesting. Firstly, I want to know that how did you come to this title? And secondly, I noticed that your books are quite different from the horror elements because I was reading the blurbs. So I want to know what is that uniqueness that you are maintaining, what kind of elements you are using to create a different kind of horror.
I think that's a lovely question, first of all. Thank you for that. And for me, I think the uniqueness is that whenever we follow a character's journey, for me, it's important to get to know what is going on here rather than what is going on outside. It's important to get to know what is inside, what is happening inside. And that I've religiously followed in all my books. I have religiously followed that I need to take up a mental health I need to take up a mental health topic, or I need to take a topic which is not spoken about enough, and I need to make a social commentary on that. So, Rotten Pits of Hunger, on the face of it, you know that there is this entity, there is hunger, but it was what struck me was when I was washing my face with a face wash, it struck me that that face wash had more fruit content in it than a lot of people in India will ever get in their lifetime. And that unequal distribution of resources itself was horrifying. We are living in a world where resources should be freely available to anybody who is living. When life,
True.
just living and life itself, is so expensive, how do you ensure that what we are facing is not faced by somebody else, or what somebody else is facing is not faced by us? So I did a little experiment because I love experiments. I did this little experiment with myself. I am somebody who has not gone hungry because I come from a well-to-do family, and I don't really know what hunger feels like. You know, starvation feels like. You
Yes.
can get hungry, right? As somebody who comes from like a well-to-do family, you can get hungry. You can do upvas, you can do go on fasting, you can go on crazy diets also. But what these people on the streets who are underprivileged, what are they feeling like? That needs to be explored. So I went hungry straight for like 3 days, no food at all, and I realized, for me, somebody who's well-to-do, who has never experienced hunger and starvation, I knew what was happening to my body, and whatever is happening to me happens to them 100x, 100 times worse happens to them. And we are so oblivious and we are so apathetic towards such things that are rampant in the society. So I wanted to take that concept, that a well-to-do family, a rich family who has never faced any hunger or any problems in their life, and suddenly cut their food and water supply and see what they behave like. So you have generational trauma, you have hunger in it, and then you add like a fictional entity into the mix, where you kind of explore pathways of life, of real horror that is stemming not from an entity, but real horror stemming from what hunger does to your body, or what generational trauma does to you, and what something so sincere that a family, a joint family living with each other, who have lived their lifetimes with each other, but all their secrets coming out, or their irritants, all their peccadillos, if you may, all those things coming out slowly and steadily, and the breaking point of each family member as they face dire consequences of fear, starvation, thirst. So I wanted to explore those dynamics into a family, and that's where like Rotten Pits of Hunger came from. The title, honestly, I'm very bad with names. So at the title, I had weird names to begin with, as like this entity, that entity. I had very weird names to begin with, and I thought that let's just see what we can do. So I first write the whole book, and then I kind of spitball ideas, and then I kind of come up with titles. So I thought that let's hunger I wanted in the
Okay.
title, because that is the theme of the book. So hunger I wanted,
Main
and
theme,
I'm
yeah.
like hunger, hungry, somebody who is hungry, hungry family. So I was spitballing these ideas, and I realized that we are exploring very dark crevices and dark pits of our stomach. And I wanted to then name it Dark Pits of the Stomach, but it did not sound that appealing. So we changed the
Yeah.
dark to rotten, and then we changed stomach to hunger. So in the Rotten Pits of Hunger, it became.
Yeah, the title itself is really catchy. And another of your books also caught my attention, that is 7 Hours at Bhata Road. So I really want to know a little about this book from you, because I read the blurb and I was really like, abhi kharidni hai mujhe, I have to read this book. So I'm going to order this book just after this session. But a little bit I would love to know from you.
Thank you. I um, I actually wrote this book during COVID, and I had this concept in mind. And again, I told Siddharjan that I have this concept. Do you think it's interesting? And he's like, yes, write the book. And I was like, okay. The concept was very straightforward. The concept was, and it is overly used. सबको पता है ये कॉन्सेप्ट, सबने ये कहानी सुनी है. अबाउट दिस गोस्ट हर सिटी में होता है, ये कहानी तो हर सिटी में सुनी है हम लोगों ने, कि देर इज दिस गोस्ट जो भूतनी है, जो लिफ्ट मांगती है, एंड अगर आप उसको लिफ्ट दो तो शी विल किल यू. So that was a very straightforward concept for me. What I wanted to do was I wanted to add like Bhasme levels of element to it. I wanted to add layers to it. So I thought that why is she doing this? I wanted to understand why is the Bhutni doing this. A vengeance wala story or revenge wala story is too typical. I don't like to do those like revenge vagara wala stories. These are very typical stories. So I wanted to make layers to it. So I thought, what if there is a village where they have found a way to cheat hell, where they can do whatever nonsense they want, they can do whatever sins they want, but by doing a particular ritual, they will cheat hell, and they none of them will go to hell in the afterlife. And then what if hell then feels that, oh my god, they are cheating us, this is not cool. And hell is such a like a very powerful very powerful realm. And if hell gets cheated, hell feels cheated, hell would be like, oh, this is not cool. If you don't come to me, I will come to you. I will come to you, so let me do that. So I love that climax, I love that antithesis, I love that irony of the situation, where if you are not going to hell, let the hell come to you. So for me it was great to explore that aspect. Plus, since I have read a lot of literature, I knew that, like Dante's Inferno, Hindu literature also has like Garud Puran. It has about 27
Yeah.
levels of hell. So I was like, what if there is like a 28th level of hell which is introduced to the world, and it is ruled by
Okay.
somebody who is already existent in the folklore, already existent in the mythology. So I want to develop a story of how this comes up. I just want to develop a story of how ritualistically this comes up, and the underbelly of it, I want to lace it with epilepsy. I want to make this story about epilepsy. I want to make this story about a village, and I want to make this story about modern times. So if you read the book, you'll realize that I parallelly run like two stories: one in the village about centuries ago, and one right happening right now. with a
Okay.
family who is unfortunately just got stuck in this place for 7 hours, and horrific things are happening to them in those 7 hours. All they need to do is survive at the end of that seventh hour, and everything would be fine. So we need to just understand if they are going to survive or not. And the most dangerous thing is that the lady there is pregnant, and she's
Hmm.
almost about to deliver the baby as well. And there is a 7-year-old kid also with them, so that increases the stakes. So let's see. You'll read the book, you'll know.
Sure. But I just want to know, why have you chosen 7 7 hour? Is there any reference to the seven doors of heaven or something like that?
It is a it is a subtle reference to the number seven. Seven number
Okay.
has been predominantly used in our scriptures as well, because 7 days are there. There are seven pakshas. There are seven. There are lots of numbers which say that seven is an auspicious number. I just wanted to take that number and make it inauspicious. I wanted to make it like seven sins, or seven doors of heaven, or seven stairs, or seven steps that Indonesians believe. I wanted to take that concept and I wanted to make it my own, and I wanted to make sure that these are like 7 hours of hell that you go through on earth.
Okay. So before I start the rapid fire, I want to know one last thing from you. That I was noticing that most of your books are like adapted for a movie or a web series. So are you now going to write them in a screenplay way, or they are all going to come like books? So how do you plan to go about in the future?
So I have been approached by a lot of people for screenplay writing. As a matter of fact, I have already worked on three screenplays. One of them is already out. By the way, it's a movie called Forensic. For Forensic, I
I
have
have.
just
Okay.
consulted. Yeah, it's with Vishal Furia, and Prachi Desai has acted in it. The
Yeah.
scenes with Prachi, I have consulted for a couple of the scenes with Prachi. As a matter of fact, before this call, I was working on a screenplay, but not fully writing on my own. I'm just again consulting for it, additional screenplay consultant. My worry is that there are amazing screenplay writers already in the industry. I am a book writer,
Hmm.
so I need to now learn the art of writing screenplay. So I'm shadowing a couple of people now, learning their art, being very humble with it. I want to just understand how to do it. And coming from an academic background, I don't really like to dive into anything just like that. I like to do my
Hmm.
like nice research, aram aram say, you learn everything. First you learn ABCD, then you learn how to spell words, and then you write a sentence, then you write a book. So for me, that kind of thing is important also, so that you respect the art of the person as well. So there are a couple of screenplays actually lined up, and my fifth book, which I have not written yet, that has already gone for screen adaptation. They have already bought the rights of the book, so I have been very lucky with that. It's not I have not even written a single word of that book, but just purely based on the story and the concept. A great producer and a great director have loved the book. They have already started working on it. It's already in development. So for me, not going to stop writing books.
Hmm.
Screenplay, yes, I am trying my hands on it. But let's see. Let's see. I'm not going to say that I won't do this or I won't do that. I'm open to new experiences.
That's lovely, and all the very best to you. So let's start this rapid fire. I hope you will also enjoy, and try to be monosyllabic as much as you can. Okay. So firstly, what is the meaning of your name, Ajinkya?
Unconquerable.
Okay. That you have already become, I guess.
Not yet.
Okay. So which one of your written books is close to your heart?
Has death stared back?
Okay. If you have to choose one character from your books, which one you would like to be in real life?
Mm, I think I would like to meet Annamati from my fourth book.
So do you have any favorite horror movie?
I do. I love Hereditary, and I love
Okay.
Indonesian horror. One of my favorites is I love Korean horror also. But yeah, you wanted one answer. Hereditary.
Who's your favorite author?
My favorite author. Oh my god. I don't have a favorite, but current favorite is actually I don't really have a favorite.
Okay. So your preferred time to write?
Night, late night, around
Okay.
11 p.m. to 3 p.m. 3 a.m.
Okay. That's the devil's hour. Okay, so the last one is I don't know you want to give out or not, but I'm still asking. It's your call. What's brewing in your collection of unfinished drafts?
Oh my god, there are about six unfinished stories that I have, and I don't know which one to take first. Um, One of them is okay. One of them I am working on 7 hours at Bata Road's second part, which is
Oh,
7 years after Bata Road. So it is about the story
lovely.
of a family again, but it is about the story
Okay,
of how hell starts spreading.
okay, that's interesting. Now you're giving me more reasons to quickly pick the book.
Great.
I just want to know one more thing. Bhata Road, is it like imaginary place or does it exist?
Oh my god, it exists. It's not called
Okay.
Bhata Road. I changed the name of the road, but it is called
Okay.
Bosa Road. And Bosa Road used to be a place in Yavatmal, in the exact patch that I have written. I've given you exact coordinates. I've just changed the name from Bosa to
Okay.
Bhata. The
Okay.
problem is I started off writing it as Bosa Road, but when I actually went there, now it's like fully commercialized and they have made like buildings and all on top of it. So it was not as appealing for me. So I changed it to Bata then. But it is
So is there
absolutely based on like a true story that happens that usually locals scare people with.
Mhm. And the last one is, do you believe in ghosts?
Ah, I get that a lot. Simple answer, a yes or no answer, no.
Okay.
More complicated answer would be not in the traditional sense that some people think. To me, since I'm a science student and I'm also a chemical engineering student, to me, the universe needs to have chaos. The entropy of the universe always needs to increase. And we are expanding as a universe. So, as we expand, there will be more and more chaos as we go forward. That chaos of unexplained events, of dark energy, of we literally don't know what is into outer space, we literally don't know what is dark matter, we literally don't know what is deep space. We first thought that we knew everything, we knew light is made up of, but we now know that about 70-80% of things are made of dark matter, and we have no idea what dark matter is. To me, that unknown, that unexplained, that is ghost. I don't want to materialize it into anything like a bhoot, pret, chudel, atma. I don't want to materialize it into that. But to me, that traditional form of ghost, no. But this form of dread, where you don't know what is happening, where you are alone on this isolated road in a new area, you don't know what is happening, you anything can come out of anywhere. That to me is scary. Yes, then I believe in that. I believe in I believe in entropy. I believe in entropy of the universe. I believe in chaos, and that to me is ghosts.
Okay. So I am also a very curious person when it comes to paranormal and supernatural stuff. So I had a conversation with Neil, and then I also invited Anirban Bhattacharya. And next I'm going to have, I guess if he agrees, Abhirup Dhar is also a horror writer. So I have requested them all that one day I want to have conversation with you, and I want to talk about everything: demonology, devils, and exorcism, possessions, and we will have everybody's perspective and listen to everybody's ideas. It will be a fun jamming, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. You should do a group call with all of us, and we can just like debate.
Okay, Definitely. So, Ajinkya, lovely having you, and I will soon read your book, review it on the website of my publishing house. And I really learned a lot from you because every author has a different perspective towards their genre, towards their methodology of how they write. So it's always a learning experience. So lovely having you today.
Lovely to be here, Monalisa. I really enjoyed a very heartfelt conversation and great questions as well. So thank you for calling me.
Thank you so
Really
much. The pleasure is all mine. Bye. Have a great
bye.
evening.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye. So I was talking to Ajinkya Bhasme. He's a best-selling author of 3 psychological horror books, and his 4th one has also come out. So do check out his books. I will drop the link of his website. You will find all his books, and also follow the page Monalisa's Talk Show. And if you are an indie author, also a traditional one, and want to get featured through my talk show, connect with me at editorialmagazinecc@gmail.com. The movement that I have started is hashtag support Indian authors. So do support me in this journey and read more and more books of Indian authors and review them. So bye all, take care. And yes, also you can check out my books on Amazon. I'm also a writer. So bye bye. Have a great evening.